Assignment. Today we'll be focusing on part 2 of our flyer assignment. This week we'll be converting images for print. Here's our assignment. This is continuing on our flyer assignment for part 2, assignment A5, and this section will be due next Tuesday before class. Our introduction. Now that we have our layout down, it is time to move to the images. Using what we've learned in today's lecture and in the previous lecture about color, we will be formatting these images, ensuring they are print ready. We will also be learning how to close crop images in Photoshop, then link them to our InDesign layout. The purpose of this assignment is to create a flyer from scratch. Part 2 of this assignment is all about the images. We will be close cropping them along with correcting file color modes and the correct resolution. The objective: close crop 8 images, color mode to CMYK, resolution to 150 dpi, and place images into the InDesign layout. So in our specs category, you can see all of the specs that we discussed last week for the first part of the assignment, and they are grayed out because we will be focusing on these key pieces here below. Color mode of all 8 images must be converted to CMYK. The resolution of all 8 images must be converted to 150 dpi, and the image file type must be saved to a PSD file, also known as a Photoshop file. And then all images will be placed into our layout that we were working on last week, and they must be placed in the same spot as the demo below. To be submitted, submit compressed main folder to Brightspace. This main folder is the exact same main folder we were working on last week. However, we will be updating it slightly and adding more folders. We will then also add a second exported PDF with all the marks in bleed. Be sure that when you're working on this, when we open our file in InDesign from last week, we save it right away as a new working file with the description flyer 2. That way, once we've added the photos, we will package our file from today, also with the description flyer 2. That means you will have 2 separate packaged folders within our main folder. In our supplied folder, we will have our social media icons that we had last week, and we will be also adding our downloaded hardware images that I've supplied to you this week. As usual, you can see how you will be marked for this assignment and that the points are quite heavy. So this part of the assignment is quite cumbersome. There's a lot of little steps, but overall it's just going to be a lot of repetitive pieces more so than difficult. Here is our preview. So these are the 8 images that will be close cropping. Close cropping is when we remove any white background from an image so that when you place it on a colored background, it appears to be floating in the flyer. So, as in previous weeks, if you go to Brightspace, we are currently on week 6 for October 13th. Here you will find the PDF of our lecture from today's assignment, from today's class, our A5 flyer, part 2 assignment page, and then you will find your download A5 supplied file. So you are to download these files. So once you've downloaded them, you will find them in your downloads folder as a zipped folder. Double click to open your zipped file. And here we have all of our pieces. So we can open in our NSCC print production in our main folder for this assignment, where you will already find pieces from last week. Open our same supplied folder, and you're going to drag the images I supplied today into this folder. from here in our supplied folder, these are what we call the raw images. So they're untouched, they have not been updated, they have not been edited. So these are the raw images that I've supplied. You make sure that these stay in your supplied folder, and we are going to save new copies of our finished product so that you always have access to the raw images in case the customer goes and wants to change something. You always know where to find them. So in our same supplied folder, we're going to create a close cropped folder. This close crop folder within our supplied folder is where we will save all of our updated images. So let's start with the first one. I'll take the duct tape file and I'm going to drag this and open it into Photoshop. So here in Photoshop, we have a couple steps to do before we start close cropping. Step 1 is when you open a file like this, a pre-made file in Photoshop, it automatically locks the layer. It locks the layer to help ensure that you don't accidentally start editing the picture or changing it without being ready to do so. So step 1 is click the lock on your Photoshop layer in the bottom right corner, and once the lock is removed, this image is now able to be edited. Our second step is to go to Image in the top menu bar, and there's Mode. You should recognize most of these color modes from last week's lecture: Bitmap, Grayscale, Duotone, Indexed, RGB, CMYK, Lab, and Multi-Channel. So as we discussed last week, RGB and CMYK are the two most important color modes that we'll be using. However, RGB we are using as much to know not to use it. So RGB is what you use when you're designing for the web. So it uses your red, green, and blue with light to produce very vibrant colors. However, it's important for this assignment that all of our images are converted to CMYK. When you do this, it tells Photoshop to adjust the colors for within that CMYK color gamut. So sometimes you'll notice the colors get a little less bright, and this is how you know they're ready. So change the mode by selecting CMYK. And then we'll hit OK. So you'll notice ever so slightly the yellow got a little duller and the red as well. Because this is a photo of an already printed package, there's a good chance you won't notice a huge difference between the brightness levels. So our next piece is we need to adjust the resolution. We do this by selecting Image again in the top menu bar and going to Image Size. So as we discussed in today's lecture, it is extremely important to ensure that this link bar is connected to the width, height, and resolution. How you adjust this is by selecting or deselecting Resample. So depending on what state your Photoshop is in, make sure that the width, the height, and the resolution are all connected with that link. And you do that by deselecting the Resample. Once all three are linked, you will go to the resolution and type in 150 pixels per inch as discussed on our assignment sheet. As you note, as you typed the new resolution, the width and the height changed relative to the resolution. I am not worried about the height or the width. I am mainly focused that your resolution must be 150 for all 8 of these images today. So that is step 2. So the next part of this puzzle is close cropping. If you spend any time in Photoshop, you'll know that there are many different ways to do these jobs. Pick whichever one you want, whatever feels most comfortable to you. If you spent time in Photoshop, I trust you, you can do what you want. Our goal is to make sure that we end up with the same result. To remove the white space and shadow from the product so that way it stands on its own. Make sure that you have these little plastic bumps included. We want the full product as if the customer could take it off the screen. So there are a couple different tools we can use. On the left-hand side, there is the quick selection tool. And by right-clicking on this tool, it shows you a couple different options. So we have the magic wand tool, quick selection, and the object selection tool. We'll start with the magic wand. So the magic wand tool is designed to select anything that is the same color that's touching. So it does this by using the contrast of different spaces. So if I select the white space, you can see it kind of selected some of these areas here as well. And it did that because it feels that they're close enough to the white color to check. So now that I have these marching ants selected on the white area, if I hit delete on my keyboard, it comes up with this checkered box. The checkered box is designed to show you that that area has been removed. So our next tool that you can use is the quick selection tool. This tool is similar to the magic wand, however, it goes based on the area selected. So if you start selecting the white space, it starts to learn what you are trying to select and works with you. So as you can see, you can rotate around. However, once I got into the gray area, it thought the gray duct tape was similar enough and has selected that whole piece. So if I select delete, I'm only left with the duct tape label, which is not what I want. My next tool is just above the quick selection tool, and these are the lasso tools. We have 3 separate options. So the original lasso tool is designed to just go where your cursor is. So if you slide your cursor around the duct tape, you can eventually make a loop and try and see how steady your hand is. The goal is you have to make sure you close your loop. So whatever you're drawing, you have to close that loop. Once you close it, you're able to delete, and that will remove portions. However, that doesn't give a very smooth line. You also have the polygonal lasso tool. This is designed for straight lines. So there may be some of our tools and hardware pieces today that might be able to use this. Once again, close your loop, and once the loop is closed, it will create a shape, and you can delete that shape. Our last tool, which may also be the most helpful today, is the magnetic lasso tool. This uses the contrast of the image to try and select what we're working on. So if we click along the side and hold your mouse roughly, it doesn't have to be perfect, you can glide your mouse along the edge, and it uses the contrast of the white in your object to get as close to the image as possible. So this might be the easiest one for us to start with today. So any of these tools, whatever you feel most comfortable with, you're welcome to use to get the job done. The goal is just to remove any of the white space around the object. So if you notice in the bottom of my lasso tool, there's a little circle that appears. When that circle appears, that's how you know you've closed your loop. So now once I've closed it, I've selected my space. But as you can see, I've selected my actual roll of duct tape. So when I hit delete, it removes the duct tape. And that is not my goal. Our goal is to remove the white space. So a trick for this, if you go to the top menu bar and select, you can then choose inverse. Once you choose inverse, it rotates. So now I've selected this white area and it can be removed. So that is your goal for today's class. So once you've selected it, you can go and we're going File, Save As. So I'm saving to my computer and I'm going to save in my AMCA A5 main folder, supplied, close cropped. So I'm saving in this second folder within my supplied folder the files that I have updated. So our last piece of our Photoshop from this image is make sure you save it as a Photoshop file. So that is the top option. So you're saving it as a Photoshop file and you click Save. Okay. By saving it as a Photoshop file, it means that you can open it back up and re-edit it. So if you've accidentally forgot to change the resolution or forget to change the color mode, you have the opportunity to do so by saving it as a Photoshop file. So once our files have all been created, we will then go and open them in, open our InDesign file. So I'm going to our package folder from last week's class and I'm opening up our AMCA A5 Flyer 1 last name. There it is. Just a little slow this evening. So here's our file. So everything should be linked. If you don't have your links, it means that something happened last week when saving them, but your link should show you that you have all 4 pieces and they should be still relinked. If they're telling you you're not, you can open your link tab and there will be a yellow warning triangle here. Double click it and find the saved file and then it will relink the files for you. So now, using our assignment sheet from today's class, it shows that our duct tape is here in the bottom orange box in the top left hand. So we're going to do our same technique we've been using the last few weeks. We're going to select our rectangle frame tool. We are going to draw a box in what we feel is the right spacing. Just eyeball it. Then making sure that box is selected, File, Place, and now we go to find our saved file. That's it. So just as it normally happens, our image has been cropped. This is because the size of the image is much bigger than my box I've created in InDesign. How we fix this is we select our box we're working with, right click, fitting. This time we are going to fit content proportionally. Oh look, we have a very tiny duct tape. So what's happened here is because of Photoshop file, it actually saves the original proportions of the image. So what that means is if I select our circle in the middle of the box with this hand, I get a brown border that will appear. This is actually the size of the image. I can adjust this brown box, which adjusts the size of my image, but notice it still crops my image. So the goal is to kind of still make sure we can see all of the duct tape within our image. So that's it. So our goal is to do that for all of the pieces that we've done today. So you can minimize that one. We're now going to open the next file into Photoshop. And we do the same steps all over again. Deselect the lock on our layers, image, mode. Oh look, already CMYK. It's good to go. Image size. Make sure that resolution is connected with our width and height. Change the resolution to 150. OK. Now using whatever tool you'd like, we select the white area. Here's a tip. If you look really closely at my cursor, there is a tiny, tiny plus sign on the inside of my circle here. By having that plus sign, it means that I am adding to my selected area. If I hold down the Alt key on my keyboard, there's now a negative sign. If I use the negative sign, I can deselect my area. So use those plus signs. That Shift is your plus, Alt is your negative. Use those tools to help kind of clean out your image. You have options. So once you have all those, delete, file, save as to our computer. We're saving it in our close crop folder. We're changing the format to a Photoshop file. Save. Once we've saved, we use our assignment sheet. It shows the hammer is next to the duct tape on the right-hand side. Create a box. File. Place. Select our close cropped hammer. Right click, fitting, fit content proportionately. And adjust accordingly. So once you have all of your pieces, you'll end up, I'm going to do the secret magic kitchen thing from TV. Once you have all of your files completed, they are right here. Add all of your files into our Once you have them all, add them in, file, save as. So I haven't added the rest of the images, so make sure you have all 8 images complete. You save as flyer 2. Save. Then you repackage. File, package. So you're saving this in your same main folder. So we're packaging it here, but Flyer 2. So it's in your same main folder. You're packaging it, your file, you're exporting a second PDF as well. Flyer 2. This second PDF has all of your marks and bleeds. Export. So this should be your finished folder now. You have Flyer 1 packaged, Flyer 1 PDF with marks and bleeds, Flyer 2 packaged, Flyer 2 PDF with marks and bleeds, and a full supplied folder. Once again, you take your main folder and you compress. And that is the compressed folder that you upload to Brightspace. And there you are. That is the next part of our flyer assignment. Hopefully you have a good week, and we'll see you next time.